Hi guys, welcome back to Gardening with Creations by DX & Co. Whew, things are finally growing in there. It's getting nice. It was a beautiful spring day. It's a little chilly out now as the sun's starting to set, but we were able to get a lot of things started cleaned up in the garden. Topped off one of our beds for our tomatoes, and I was just about to put in my new trellis system, and I want to show you guys the trellis system that I'm going to be going with this year and tell you guys how to build it. It's so super simple, and it's one that if you like to grow an indeterminate variety of tomatoes, and or even if you're growing cucumbers, this is a great trellis system for either a raised bed or in ground. It doesn't matter, and it's not that expensive, and it's something that's going to last you. So let me show you what we're doing. This trellis system I'm doing on a raised bed. My raised bed is 8 foot by 4 foot, so a very standard size raised bed. Obviously you can apply this principle to any size bed, whether that be in ground or raised bed, but let me show you the tools that we're going to need for the job today are a hammer or a post driver. It would be better if you have it. We're going to be using T-posts. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with T-posts, but you can buy them at any basic garden store or home center, big box store type deal. A lot of tractor supply stores like this. This is a T-post. This one happens to be an 8-foot T-post. They come in many different sizes, 4 foot, 10 foot. I think you can even get them in 12 foot. We've gone with the 8-foot one. It's actually the only one that they had on hand at the time. I think I paid about $8 a piece for these, okay? The next thing you're going to need actually is a piece of PVC T, okay? It's called a T. It's a PVC Schedule 40, and this one happens to be 1.25 inches. 1 inch and 1/4, okay? That's the size you need on all four. So 1 1.25 inches, 1.25 inches, 1.25 inches. I said 4 and meant all three, okay? So that is the T-post that you need. And then the last item that you will need for this project, besides string, is a piece of electrical conduit. This is called electrical conduit. This is 1/2 inch that I purchased. You could go bigger if you wanted to, as long as it fits through that PVC 1.25 inch, but 1/2 inch is all you need. Very inexpensive and will last and not rust out for you, basically. So that's the tools that we're going to need for this project. Now let me show you exactly what we're doing. So you can go on the outside of your bed or the inside of your bed with your T-posts. Now I'm going to have 2 rows of tomatoes, one in the front and one in the back. So I actually need to set my posts on either side. And as you can see, I already have one standing, just to kind of show you what I was looking at. And I actually drove that in without a hammer. I need to go get the hammer, but you want to offset it. You don't want it up against that. That's not where your tomatoes are going to be. You want it to be kind of in the center of where your row of tomatoes is going to be. And you're going to drive that down into your soil. Now, again, this is where the hammer would come into play. Or if you have a ladder, that would be, you're probably going to need a ladder, obviously, depending on how high you want to go. But my soil is soft. Like I said, I just amended it, added some additional compost to it. I don't recommend stepping on those things. That just stabbed right through my shoe. So don't step on the little spikes, but that's okay. So now I've got 2 on this side. I need to set 2 additional on the next side. So I'm sure if I was an engineer or something like that, or a perfectionist, I would measure the distance and mark it and set it. Honestly, it's not that serious. I'm just trying to garden here, folks. I'm not trying to be a perfectionist. When I do my DIY projects, things like that, yes, but for something as simple as this, absolutely not necessary. So I can't get this one to drive down any further without a hammer, so I'm going to need a hammer for that one. This weather has been just weird this year. I don't know about your part of the world. Comment down below if you've had a weird season this year too. But we've just had up and down here in Michigan. It hit about 55 today, but it rained off and on. And so I was able to get a few things done in between the rain. And now it's just like 30. I think it'll be like 29 overnight tonight. Let me go ahead and grab my hammer so I can set this. A small sledgehammer is best to really tap these in on the top, but I don't have one of those on hand, so I'm just going to grab a normal hammer. Whew. All right, so now that we've got our posts set, and yes, I know they're a little uneven, but yeah, that's fine. As you can see, you just need them in there for standing purposes. And as long as they're not about to fall over or fall out on you, you should be perfectly fine. All right, so the next step is to actually take those PVC tees that I told you about, and we're just going to set them. That simple. Just set them right on top of our posts. They fit perfect. They should fit perfectly right over top of your posts, almost like they're protecting the top. One for each of your posts. So now, if you're doing a longer bed than this, you may want to consider putting an additional T-post in the middle for additional support. Obviously, getting an extra T, setting it aside there, that'll help support it. Now, the conduit that I've chosen comes usually in 10-foot lengths. So this particular conduit is the next part here. We just take this electrical conduit and we're just going to slide it right through those T's that we just put in. Very simple. No nails, no screws. And you should have about, if you're doing an 8-foot bed, you should have about a foot sticking out on either side, which is really tall, so you're not going to likely hit your head or anything on it. However, if you're doing a longer run, they do make what they call conduit connectors, which I'll see if I can get a picture of it and put it up on screen. So for a couple of bucks, you get a little piece of conduit connector, you connect it, and it's just like a slip that goes over the piece of it, so you can basically connect a couple of them together and still have one long run. Now, if you were smart, you could set your posts about 9 foot apart, and then if you're going with 1/2 inch, you should be able to slide another piece of conduit right next to it. Then you don't even have to buy the connector, you just kind of overlap the two of them. But that's it, guys. We have just built a trellis. Now, whether you are using this for tomatoes like we plan to use it for, or whether you're using this for cucumbers, which you absolutely could. If you're using this for pole beans, if you're using this for tomatoes, if you're using this for anything you're using it for, this will work, and it'll last because they're meant to be outdoor items. So conduit, the PVC, the stakes, but you can take them down in the winter even and lay them down and then put them back up in the spring when you're ready to. Okay, so now that we have the actual trellis upright, let me show you how the actual tomato or any other plant that you're trellising works on this. So what you want to do is take a string. Now this is just a simple like nylon rope, okay? And then as you can see, you can tie it off right at the top. And you can see that I don't have it tied up. I actually have it looped over the top, and I'm going to show you why here. So bring you in close. You see the tomato is planted. I got them planted out yesterday. And this clip is going to be the important part, and I'm going to show you exactly how that works here in just a second. But we have one side of the string just loosely draped right next to the tomato plant, and I'll explain why it's loosely draped. And then on the back side here, I have the string draped over the top and actually in the ground. Now I actually am just using a simple garden stake. Let me show you. So I have a simple just garden stake, and I have the rope wrapped around there a number of times. You could do this almost infinitely, and the reason for that is we want extra rope. Now we want that taut on there, so we have that wrapped around there, just pulling the rope itself kind of taut and staked in the ground. All right. And then we have it draped over the top, as I said. And then we have the rope itself right next to the tomato plant. Now this is the most important part about this whole concept, if you will, are these clips. Now you can actually do kind of a weave, if you will, where you just kind of loosely wrap the string around the tomato plant, kind of like this. That works just fine. If you're going to do that concept, you want this staked as well, this string staked as well right next to the tomato plant. But what we're doing is using these clips. Now I will put the link for these clips down below. I got them off Amazon. I want to say it was like $10 for a bag of 300. You really can't go wrong. I will say that I debated in the past actually spending the money on these, and I'm kicking myself now for not doing it sooner. These clips, the way that they actually function, they've got a bit of a groove where you collapse them, and then they have this kind of just, you can even one-handed close this. So you just close it. You can even do it one-handed. It's usually simpler than I just made it seem to be. You can even unclip it one-handed just by doing that. So if you're kind of trying to stake the tomato by yourself. Now the important part is this groove in the back. That's, you want to pinch your string actually in there. So let me demonstrate here. I'm going to show you here on this tomato basically how this works. You're going to make sure that your string is tucked in nicely to that back groove there, just like that. And then you just simply go around your tomato plant. You want it kind of on a node where you're getting a leaf branching out, right? And you just clip it in, and there you have it. So as you continue up, as your plant continues to grow, you just add a clip up the string, and then the cool part, and the reason why I said you want so much extra string, I'm going to show you on this one. So this one's a little bit taller. I've already pruned off most of the leaves that weren't doing so well. This one actually split, and I'm going to show you why that's really cool. But I'm going to show you why we added so much extra string to our stake there, as you can see, right? So remember, we added a bunch of string. So this is an indeterminate variety tomato, and if you continue to prune it up like this, after the fruit dies on the lower branches, you cut that off. And to show you on this vine plant here, as we talked about, here's all the extra string that I put on the other side on the stake. Now, given that this is a indeterminate variety, me loosening this stake allows this to actually lay down. So I can actually lay this plant down as it grows up, which allows this to continue to grow and grow up the vine, which allows, so the more string that I let out, the more I can lay down on the other side, and I can allow this actual tomato to do what it's supposed to do, which is continue to grow. So as long as my season is, I can continue to get this to grow just by cutting the fruit that's already grown and stringing it up. And so now I've got that grown up. Now let me show you, I allowed this one to split into two different parts here. And the reason that I allowed this one to split in two different parts is now with the same root, I can actually grow two separate vines. That's the other great part about this trellis, is I wouldn't let it split too many different ways, because that'll just suck all the nutrients out of the plant and you'll never get a good harvest of fruit. You'll only get, it'll just be growing. But splitting it twice is awesome, and you can actually continue to get this thing to grow, and you can move these strings instead of being stuck in one place. You can move them and spread this plant out and get it to trellis where you want it to. So now I've got two independent vines going from one root, thereby saving some space in the garden, and I could plant underneath it if I wanted to. So there we have it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is one of a couple of different trellising systems that I've shown you guys now, whether it's the Florida weave, tomato cage. This one actually seems to be the best. We're gonna try it out this year, but you can do this with any different type of vining crop. You can do this with your green beans, you could do this with your cucumbers, you can do this with your tomatoes, of course, even determinate variety tomatoes. You don't even need the actual extra string in the back. You can just tie it off at the top with your determinate variety tomatoes. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. As I said, please leave a comment below on if you have a system like this and it's working for you. Hope you guys are staying safe and enjoying your gardens.